Welcome to another edition of All or Not According to Jack with your host, Jack Toledano. As you can see, I have some guests sitting on the couch with me, Jerry, George, Elaine, and Kramer. So what does that mean? That means it is time for part two of the mini-series where we talk about the top 5 episodes of each season. So we've already done seasons 2 and 3. So we are now going to talk about probably my two favorite seasons, seasons 4 and 5. Uh, they really came into their own in season 4. Not that there was anything wrong with seasons 2 or 3. They were great in their own right. But let's go to the PowerPoint. Let's get started. We do this again. Share screen. That's it. All right. So just a reminder, top 5 episodes by season. I can just get these damn things to shrink. There we go. So season 4, funny season. Season 4 had was the first season where Larry David had the idea of doing an overall season arc, where basically in this arc, Jerry and George were going to write a pilot for NBC. So we all know how that turned out, but it was a hell of a ride along the way. So let's go to, and I'm just looking over at my notes as we go. Drink of agua. And we go. So I have two honorable mentions. So the first one, the old man. So Jerry, George, and Elaine, they volunteered to be like friends to the elderly, almost like a little brother to the elderly, where they sit with them and chat with them and have lunch and exchange stories. But poor Jerry got this awful curmudgeon of a man. It's like, that's what you're doing, garbage, you idiot. So Jerry ended up leaving, and George had a good guy, which George fucked it up and ended up getting himself fired. Lane had a woman who had a I don't know, what did she have? She had gout or something, where she had a growth on the side of her neck. It's the funniest thing, and Elaine couldn't look. But funniest line was the old man telling Jerry, "You want to change my diaper?" So a lot of zany, funny things happen. The old man ends up kicking Kramer in the ass, and Kramer, I think he bit Newman or bit one of them. His false teeth flew out, and George ended up pushing the wrong switch, and he pushed the garbage disposal and disposed of his dentures. So zany, funny episode, but hard to believe there were many ahead of it. So the next one, the handicap spot. Another zany, funny episode where a lot happens. So Kramer, in his infinite wisdom, convinces, so 4 of them are going to the mall to get Drake, the Drake, a wedding gift, or not a wedding gift, but an engagement gift, and they end up getting this big TV, and they ended up they couldn't find a spot at the mall, so Kramer says to George, "Park in a handicap spot. They'll want you to do it. They want to be treated normal." So George doesn't agree with it, but as always, he goes along. They go to the store, they come back, and George's father, Frank's car, is totaled because a handicapped woman couldn't park in the handicapped spot, so she ends up getting injured. So this woman and this angry mob, they want to beat the hell out of the 4 of them, or rather whoever was the owner of the car. So they had to hide out till the mob dispersed. And they came back, and the car was demolished. And then Frank chased George around with a baseball bat. Frank gets arrested for breaking the parking code, whatever. Funny. And George, who writes in the pilot about somebody being sentenced to be Jerry's butler, he ends up being Frank's butler. All right, episode 5, the outing. I've been outed. I wasn't even in. Poor Jerry and George. So they're talking in the coffee shop, and Lane, who likes to start trouble, uh, and says out loud, "So what if you two are gay?" Meanwhile, a reporter from NYU is sitting at the next table, hears this, so she writes an article about the two of them, and gets picked up by the Associated Press. Now the whole world thinks they're gay, and Jerry's parents upset. George's mother's upset, and that iconic scene of George rushing to the hospital because his mother's been put in traction in the hospital. Too funny. Number 4, the trip. A lot of very funny things happen. So Jerry and George, I mean, about the funniest thing of this 2-part episode was their banter back and forth. You know, they're they they find out that George Kramer is accused of being the Smog Strangler. So what do? They call 911. Is this 911? How are you? Oh, I know it's an emergency line. So so then so they oh yeah. Yes, this is an emergency. My friend's being accused of being the Smog Strangler, and I know he didn't do it. How do I get to your headquarters? Where am I? He said, ask somebody. Excuse me, sir, where are we? Earth. Too funny. So then the cops picked them up, and they asked the cops to flick the siren on just for their benefit, and they're fooling around in the back. And oh, I didn't know cops eat Milano cookies. So, so then they pull up to this guy who looks like he's breaking into a car. Also looks like the same person that once had a pet black bear in the Florida Everglades. I'm talking about Ronnie Howard's little brother. Was it Ken Howard? Of course, he looked like a bum, so they asked him, "How much do you tip a chambermaid?" "And Lander sucks." Too funny. Of course, you get that iconic image of Jerry, George, and Kramer with the Hollywood sign in the background. And then cut to the next scene. Kramer's back in New York, mooching food from Jerry as he always does. "What are you doing?" "Getting something to eat." The trip. Very funny episode. Mainly for their banter in that police car. It's hysterical. Number 3, the Bubble Boy. Another extremely funny episode. So Jerry's, by this time, he's getting some fame because he was on the Tonight Show, and he was invited out to this house and somewhere in the Hudson Valley, somewhere in the Hudson Valley, to meet this boy who lives in a bubble. Of course, he's not a normal boy. He's a very foul-mouthed bubble boy. "Hey, Ma, if there's peanut butter in this sandwich, I'm gonna shove it in your face." Then he says to Susan Ross, "What's your story?" "Oh, I have no story. Why don't you take your top off?" So then they decide to, while they're waiting for Jerry to get there, because George had to go so fast and get Jerry lost. So, let's play a game of Trivial Pursuit. "How's it going for you there?" "Not too good." So then, for the win, who invaded the Moors in the 17th century? The Moors. Oh no. Oh, the question was who invaded Spain? That's easy. The Moors. Oh no. The correct answer is moops. The moops. That's not Moors, you jerk. Let me see that. So then the bubble boy starts choking him, and Susan hits the bubble and it deflates, and again they get a whole mob after them that they want to kick the shit out of them. Too funny. Oh, and then Kramer burns down Susan's father's cabin. Yeah. Number two, airport. Another very funny episode. So Jerry and Elaine are flying home from St. Louis because he had a comedy gig. And I don't know why this should have even been an argument because this was Jerry's tickets. And Jerry, and they couldn't sit together. So Jerry gets a seat in first class and Elaine is in coach. And of course, all the best things happen to Jerry, all the worst things happen to Elaine. Jerry meets a model, a 10, and they're enjoying all the benefits of first class champagne, a good salmon dinner. What else? Cookies, baked cookies. Meanwhile, Elaine is having a miserable time in coach with this steward, not a stewardess, but a steward who looked dangerously close to the same guy on what was that show? Too Close for Comfort. Newsflash, it was him, JMJ Bullock, but too funny. Uh, I wanted the coat. Why am I getting the kosher meal? You can't get up during the food service. Of course, she goes to the bathroom, and Larry Charles, who has an extra role, comes out of the bathroom, stinks up the bathroom, and Elaine has to gasp for air and going without breathing. Too funny. Of course, I have on the screen here uh, George and Kramer are going to pick up Jerry and Elaine, and this was at a time before heavy, tight security. So George goes into the one of those Hudson newsstands and picks up a cover of Time. Turns out that it was the same cover as this maniac who was probably going to get the death sentence. And he says, "Hey, I want that cover. Look at the cover, idiot." Yeah. He says, "If I wasn't in these shackles, but you are in these shackles. I hear it's supposed to be a beautiful day." Great episode. And of course, Jerry Tooley, "You've got to run like a man." Number one episode of season 4. I don't think this is any surprise to any. The contest. So, and I actually put up 4 pictures this time. Um, so, um, number one is the contest. We know that. Uh, Great episode and very cleverly written. They couldn't very much talk about masturbation, so they cover the concept of it without actually saying the word. Because, yeah, the network originally did not want them to air this episode, but the genius of Larry David got it through. Instead, they said, "I am king of the castle, lord of the manor," in Lane's case, queen of the county. So, pictures. So, that iconic scene, Jerry, George, and Kramer with the Hollywood sign in the background. And George, of course, eating his egg salad sandwich. Uh, Jerry and the model having their what looks like to be chocolate pudding parfaits. Mmm, mmm. Oh, the fudge distribution is the greatest. Of course, there's George being choked out by the bubble boy, and Susan saves the day and destroys the bubble. Of course, there's the handicap spot where George's car gets destroyed for parking in a handicap spot. So that was season 4. I'm going to take a short break and, oh, no, actually, we can't. So let's continue. Season 5. Actually, I am going to take a short pause here for a second. Okay, we're back. Had to take a short break and refill my water. We're ready to go. And let's go back and share again. Season 5. This was actually the first season that I started watching real time during the run of the show. Yeah, this is when it really started to catch on for me. And I didn't actually see seasons 1 through 4 until they started to introduce reruns on WPIX Channel 11 in the New York area. So that was a lot of fun. In any event, season 5. So the first honorable mention. Oh, doesn't want to move for me. The conversion. So George, dumbass that he is, he's got this girlfriend who can't continue seeing George because she's Latvian Orthodox. So George goes to the conversion, and a lot of funny things happen. Kramer goes to pick him up at this Latvian Orthodox church, and he meets Sister Roberta, who falls in love with him because he's got this thing called the Kavorka. So then, in order to break the spell, he puts garlic around his neck and bathes in vinegar, and then that's that. So, and of course, George goes through the conversion. It was the funniest thing. And George's parents, Georgie, what are you doing? Latvian Orthodox. Oh, that's not that religious sect that mutilate squirrels. Well, it was funny, but not as funny as the rest, which is why it's a honorable mention. Next one, the raincoats. So that was a funny episode. That's the one where Jerry's parents decide they want to disassociate themselves from the Costanzas. I want to know what we ever did to them. And George gets a little upset about it. Meanwhile, Jerry's parents are staying with him in his apartment, and he can't see his girlfriend Rachel, and he's acting like he's all backed up. So they go to see Schindler's List, and they start making out in the top of the balcony there. Who catches them? Newman. So Newman tells Jerry's mother. Jerry's parents chastise him for it. Rachel's father decides he doesn't want Jerry, somebody of such weak moral fiber, to date his daughter. It's too funny. And the raincoats. Oh no, it was actually Frank's cruisewear that gave the vintage guy, Rudy, the vintage clothing guy, Maud, so he wouldn't take the raincoats at the end. Too funny. Of course, there was Jack Compass. The key doesn't work. Now I gotta fix your window. Too funny. Next, the stall. Number 5. Can you spare a square? So this is the episode where Elaine's dating Hunky. Tony. Meanwhile, George has the schoolgirl crush on Tony because he's the first cool guy that George has ever hung out with. And the girl who couldn't spare a square. Uh, Jerry's got to give her a lot of gum, so Elaine can't recognize her voice because once she does, all hell's going to break loose. So at the very and Kramer thinks she's a phone sex operator. She's got a voice that's very flinty. Yes, that's what he said. Flinty. So at the end, Elaine gets her revenge. Oh no, I can't spare a square. I don't have a square to spare. So she takes all the toilet paper in the ladies' room and runs out with it, leaving whatever his girlfriend's name is, I forget her name, uh, leaving her without anything to wipe with. Only on Seinfeld. Next, the marine biologist. I've always wanted to pretend that I was an architect. You got me, you got me as a marine biologist in the Galapagos Islands. And I don't know where the hell I am. Jerry's talking to this girl. I forget what her name is, but she was the it girl. Oh, Diane DeCon. Diane DeCon. Oh, I think I gave her. Oh, because expect a call from Diane DeCon. Why would I get a call from her? Oh, because I think I gave her the number. So, and then he says, "Yeah, I told him all about your love of whales and how they didn't have to be they they're filled with blubber, but they don't have to be the heaviest mammal on the planet." Too funny. And of course, there's the scene at the end with the golf ball. Of course, I don't have a golf ball in hand, but Kramer, who's having a shitty day, using the ocean as down in the Rockaways as a golfing range, hitting golf balls into the ocean. Uh, he's having a crappy day, except for the one ball that he hits into the blowhole of the whale. Too funny. Episode 3, Hamptons. And this one is near and dear to my heart because I live near the Hamptons. I'm only I'd say I'm about an hour's drive west on a good day without traffic from the Hamptons, but it is beautiful. It's still very rural out there. Uh, and the fruit stand where at the very end, George gets a tomato thrown in his face. That's in the town of Amagansett, which I passed through quite a few times. Beautiful, beautiful out there. Anytime you're ever in New York and you need something to do on Long Island, take a drive all the way up to Montauk Point and go through stop in the Hamptons for a Hampton tomato. Of course, there was the scene where George's girlfriend Rachel sees George naked, and I was in the pool. There was shrinkage. I was So you thought you were shortchanged? Yes, very, very shortchanged. Uh, Only George. Of course, Kramer gets arrested for taking lobsters out of a commercial lobster track. Incidentally, I had wait for it for dinner, rock lobster. Do 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 do. Yeah, just a rock lobster tail, and it was good. That was earlier tonight. So that was the Hamptons. So number 2, the puffy shirt. Or Jerry. Oh, Jerry, Kramer was dating what we call a low talker, who nobody can hear what she has to say. So instead of being rude, you pretend you think you know what she's saying and go, yeah, yeah, uh-huh, mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Jerry didn't realize he was agreeing to wear uh, the puffy shirt on the Today Show with Brian Gumble. And so Elaine's like, you look like you're the County Monte Cristo. You look like you're ready to swing it on a chandelier. Meanwhile, George gets a job as a hand model, and his life and his career are taking off. And of course, he meets Jerry in his dressing room after his appearance on the Today Show, which bombed awfully. So George says to Jerry, who's dressing you? You look like a complete idiot. So the low talker pushes George, and his hand gets burned on an iron that was still plugged in. So there went his hand model career for George. I love the way these plots kind of meld into one another. Okay, number 1 episode of season 5. Let's go to it. The Cigar Store Indian. Yes, the Cigar Store Indian. It's kitschy. Hey Yahweh, hey Yahweh. But of course, so it's a funny episode which deals with political correctness. So not only does Jerry offend Native Americans, he ends up offending the Chinese by asking a Chinese postman where the local Chinese restaurant is. Why must I know? But of course, George stole the show again. Uh, George's parents were away, so he had a woman over. They nothing to drink, but of course Frank locked the liquor cabinet, so they ended up drinking prune juice and listening to the Harry Conniff singers and the woman who was like a Fran Drescher character. I didn't know you. Is that your son? Oh no, that's me. Oh, you're the first man that I know that keeps childhood pictures of himself in the house. So they go to the master bedroom, and they do it. So then of course George, like a dummy, leaves the prophylactic wrapper behind. So Estelle goes upstairs when they get home. Oh my God, what was this doing in our bed? So, and Frank steals the scene. What's this, a prophylactic wrapper? We're gone for 1 week and you turn our house into Bourbon Street? You're grounded. Yeah, that was funny. That also had a high rank. Yes, that ranked number 1 in my Frank and Estelle. Uh, spoiler alert. That was ranked number 1 in my on my Festivus show the other day, where we talked about the top 10 episodes of Frank and Estelle Costanza. So, not to change the subject, you got Jerry in his ridiculous puffy shirt. You got Kramer and Morty Seinfeld with all the raincoats, about to sell them to Rudy's for his vintage clothing store. So that was season 5. Next, we will do season 6. What will rank in season 6? So let's end the sharing, and we're back. So just so you know, I was on an episode of Hudson Valley Squares earlier tonight that Pete recorded, and it's now being premiering as we speak. So I am going to say goodnight, and I'm going to head over there and chat with all the viewers there for a little while. And again, I hope everybody had a great Christmas. I wanted to wish everybody once again a very happy holiday season. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, and have a happy and healthy new year if I don't speak to you. But I'm sure I'll have at least 1 or 2 episodes up before then. And have a good one, all. Talk to you soon. Jack Toledano speaking for All or None according to Jack. Bye bye.